again doing another tutorial. This time it's going to be on something called satin stitching, which is a technique that can be used a number of different ways, but the way I'm going to be showing you today is typically just a zigzag stitch over a raw edge to create kind of an embroidered look. It's extremely easy to do, and it looks really fancy and really professional, so it can really help boost the quality of your costumes. And it also helps to prevent any raw edges from applique, from fraying, so you don't have to mess around with things like fray check. So let's do it. So to get started on this project, you'll just need a small number of things. You'll need the fabric that you'll use to applique, as well as the fabric you'll be applying the applique to, scissors, a pencil or another writing utensil, the template for your design, and then heat and bond, which you can find at any fabric store where the interfacing is kept. You can buy it by the yard, or sometimes you can buy it in little packages, but basically all it is it's a type of wax paper, and it has an adhesive side to it. You can kind of see the texture on it, and that's the glue side that'll be adhering it to your fabric. You're also going to need this ancient thing called an iron and the ironing board so that you can apply the applique to your fabric. So the first thing that you do is you take your template. You can draw it up or print one out, and your heat and bond is semi-see-through, so you can just lay it right underneath your heat and bond. You'll want to have the glue side down and the paper side up. I hope you can see that, but it is pretty see-through, so you can very easily just take your pen or pencil and trace over your drawing. So once you've got your design all traced out on your heat and bond, you can go ahead and cut out around it. I don't cut around all the edges just yet because it just seems like extra work. So I just cut around like so. And since this design is two different colors, I'm going to cut around those two different areas because you're going to be ironing it onto two different fabrics. Like that, and like that. So then you'll want to make sure your iron is nice and hot, which mine is not. Way to go. And find the side of your fabric that you want to be up. Sometimes your fabrics will have a right and a wrong side. So make sure you use the pretty side, and you're going to put that down. And you'll want to make sure that any creases that are in your fabric you iron out, because they'll leave wrinkles in your applique if you don't. Can you tell I'm not left-handed ironer? Okay, so nice and smooth. Lay your template glue side down onto your fabric, and then iron it down. And just for good measure, I like to iron the other side too, just to make sure it's nice and stuck down. And there you go. So then next you'll just want to cut out along your lines in the prettiest way that you can, because the next step will be ironing this onto your fabric. So this is when cutting around the lines really counts. So next you're going to take your likely costume garment. I'm just using a piece of fabric for an example. And you'll want to take the right side and put it down, and then take a piece of interfacing and just iron it down only in the area where you're going to have your design appliqued to. This just helps when you stitch it on later. So once you've got your interfacing all nice and adhered on there, flip it over so you've got the pretty side up. You're going to take your applique pieces and peel off the paper backings. I also forgot to mention that if your design is not symmetrical like this, you'll want to make sure when you transfer it to your heat and bond that you draw it on backwards, so that when you flip it over onto your finished design, it is facing the correct direction. So once you've got your design laid exactly where you want it, you'll go ahead and iron it down. Make sure it's perfect, 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 because if it's not, the heat and bond will leave a gooey, gross looking residue on your fabric if you try to remove any piece after it's been adhered. So this really counts to make sure it's exactly where you want it, and then you just iron it down. And then what I like to do is, once it's on there just tacked in place, flip it over and iron on the back as well. And that's how you applique, and the next step will be the satin stitching. So to start, you'll want to thread your machine in whichever color you decide you want to start with. I'm going to go ahead and do red. So some of you are going to have a computerized machine, some of you will have the traditional older models, but it's all pretty much the same technique. It just kind of depends on how your machine runs it. So on my machine, stitch number 3 is a zigzag stitch, so that's what I'm going to go to. So on mine, that's how it looks. And then you're going to want to take your stitch distance and bring it as far down as you can go that isn't 0, because 0 means it's not going to move at all. And then your stitch width can be modified however you like it. I'm just going to leave it at what it defaults to, but if you want a thinner zigzag stitch, you'll make it smaller. If you want a wider one, you can make it bigger. If you've never done this before, I recommend just doing a test swatch on a piece of scrap fabric just to make sure you like how it looks before you do it on your final piece, mainly because seam ripping once you've satin stitched on it is a real pain in the butt. So what I like to do is start at one edge, and I take my needle and I put it down as close as I can get it to the edge, the outer edge of my color, and clamp down. I'm going to just move this in here so that maybe you can see it a little better. And then you'll begin stitching. And start off nice and slow just to make sure everything looks the way you want it to. And you're going to need to pull it through just a little bit, not a lot, to help it, because you've made your stitch widths or your stitch distance so close together, it's not going to want to feed through very quickly. But that's okay. And then once you finally reach a corner to your design, if there is one, you'll want to just, let me hold this still. You'll want to just make your needle go down into your fabric at the very most cornered spot. Lift up your foot. Turn your design so that it is going the right direction now. Drop your foot again. And then adjust your needle by hand a couple times just to make sure you don't get any stitches in a place you don't want them. And then you can keep going. Once you've reached the very end of your design, you can pop your needle out, lift your foot, and pull it out of your machine. So to fix those threads that are sticking out there, you don't want to just cut them off because then your threads can come unraveled. Take a hand sewing needle and just poke it in wherever in the corner of your fabric, and then run your threads through it. And if you got a tiny needle like mine, you might want to run them through one at a time. So you just pull it right on through to the back side of your fabric, and then do it again for the other thread. And now you don't have any threads on the front. So then you'll want to flip it over so you're on the ugly back side of your fabric, and take your threads and tie them in some knots. And I just like to do 2 per all the threads there, and then you can cut them off and they won't come undone. Cool beans. So that's what the back of your fabric will look like, and that is the front. And that's it. And if you look really close, it looks really nice and finished. Thank you for watching. Go ahead and comment below if there's any other tutorials you would like to see. I've got a long list of stuff that I'm working on, so hopefully I can start doing more stuff that you guys request, as well as posting more content than once every 2 years. Also click subscribe so you get notified when we post new videos, and we'll see you next time.